Hey, how you doing today? My name's Relia, and thanks for stopping by. Today, we're going to take a quick look at Nimbatus, and specifically, I want to go over some of the logic parts that they have available, as well as an update that just came out today. Stray Fawn Studios started a Kickstarter campaign for Nimbatus, which is still going on. I'll make sure to go ahead and leave a link to the Kickstarter campaign down in the description below. So the first thing I want to do today is check out a couple of new parts that they have available. The first new part being these dynamic thrusters. So let's go ahead and throw some of these thrusters on here and see what it looks like. First thing I found out the hard way is that these thrusters do not automatically map. You're going to need to map each individual thruster. Once you map one, you can copy and paste it so that way it remembers the key inputs. So one button will actually activate or use the thrusters, one button will make the thrusters more powerful, while a third button can be used to make the thrusters less powerful. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Lesson 1 is do not make your activate input the same as your build up thruster input, otherwise you're just going to go really slow. It was really interesting to see that building up thrust actually takes a decent amount of time. It doesn't happen just instantly. So this is real time building up thrust, really slow. But once you get going, you actually move pretty quick. The second new part that just became available with this second update is the TNT part. And who wouldn't want to play around with TNT? So let's take a look at this one. Honestly, I was a little bit surprised at how much of a hit this TNT could take before it actually exploded. I thought, yeah, it takes a little bit of damage and it's going to blow up right away. Let's just say it takes a second before you go down. On to the logic part intro. So, if we want to build a drone that's going to be oriented in the same direction no matter which way you fly, top part's always top, bottom part's always bottom, that's something that we can build pretty easily. First thing we need to do is get the bones ready and make sure we got plenty of fuel and plenty of energy. The next thing you're going to want to do is add engines in all four directions and add a directional sensor as well. When you add your thrusters, make sure you put them in a way where they are distributed evenly, so in that way, no matter what side you're pressing on, from the top, the bottom, the left, or the right side, it's going to push the entire drone as if it's one big cube. The last thing you want to do is add two more stabilizing thrusters, and what these are going to do is make sure that you stay oriented in the right way. Then that way the top is always the top, the bottom's always the bottom. The stabilizing thrusters are going to have their own input, so the thruster that's going to turn us right is going to be K, and the thruster that's going to point us left is going to be J. So let's take a look at this drone on a test flight. If we go forward, we're going to be horizontal the entire way, and every time we get slightly off balance, the two stabilizing thrusters are going to kick in and make sure that we get oriented in the right direction. You can use a drone like this for all kinds of different things. Real quick, I'm just going to put a bunch of drills on the bottom and take it out for another test flight on the real world. As you can see here, we're going to stay straight and level the entire time. The only downside to these drills is they don't really go through enemies or transmitters very well, but that's alright. The next autonomous drone that I want to show you how to build is one that will drill to the center of a planet. This drone is perfect for any one of the planets that has a mission where you have to drill to the center of the planet. I'll show you how right now. The first piece we start with is a button, and that's going to be mapped to the letter W, because that is the button to go forward, at least for most people. So if you map that to the letter W, that's going to work and make this little drone go forward. Next, go ahead and add some fuel and some small thrusters. Next, go ahead and add a directional sensor and two turning thrusters. What you're going to want to do is map the inputs from the thrusters. Whichever thruster is going to turn this thing to the left, match that to the left input for the directional sensor. Match the input from the directional sensor turning right to the right thruster. Go ahead and add some weapons, and also don't forget to add on that energy. You don't want to forget that. If you want to, you can also map your weapons to the letter W, which is going to be constantly pressed with that button that you added earlier. Don't forget to add a decoupler, so then that way this little drone can actually go on its own down to the surface of the planet. The coupler needs to be mapped to a button. It doesn't auto map to anything. I kind of wish it did, but that's alright. If you get the directional sensor's engine thrusters backwards, it will actually correct itself to go up instead of down. Next, let's go ahead and build a drone that will follow the planet's terrain and actually go around the entire planet. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and add your forward thrusters. Next, you want to add 2 turning thrusters to be able to turn left and right. Add a directional sensor, which you can map A to turning left and D to turning right. Next, go ahead and add a distance sensor. Add some range to the sensor because you're going to need a little bit of distance from the planet's surface, especially if there's any mountains on it, and you can go ahead and map that to the letter P. Next, we're going to go ahead and add some thrusters that are going to push us down to the surface of the planet whenever the sensor is not engaged. And so what we're going to do is next add a logic sensor. Whenever the sensor, which is mapped to the letter P, is not engaged, that is going to go ahead and trigger the letter O with this NOT gate. The letter O is mapped to the 2 thrusters that are pointing us down towards the surface of the planet. Next, we're going to go ahead and add an if logic part, and what this is going to do is if P is engaged, meaning the sensor is triggered for the ground, then W is going to engage, and that's going to send our drone flying forward around the planet. Double check that your top thruster is set to A and that your bottom thruster is set to D. If we check this out, once we hit the surface, we are going to go forward and we're going to fly straight and level. Play with that, add some weapons to it, go crazy. The last thing I want to show you today is how to build an auto-aiming turret. This works great for some of the different weapons that only point in one direction and they can't actually be controlled by your mouse. The first thing you want to use is a mechanical part called a motorized hinge. You want to go ahead and attach that motorized hinge to a logic splitter, and what this is going to do is make it so in that way if one of your turret sensors senses an enemy, it's not going to turn all of the turrets. It's only going to turn the one that you're trying to use. I'll show you more here in just a second. Next, go ahead and add 3 distance sensors and make sure each is mapped to their own button and that they are all pointed in a slightly different direction. Make sure to double check the motorized hinge for the directioning, but it should be set to right is E and left is Q. You're going to want to make sure that your right distance sensor is set to the letter E and your left distance sensor is set to the letter Q. And what this is going to do is if you find an enemy towards the left side, it's going to turn the entire turret to the left. If you find an enemy on the right side, it's going to turn the entire turret to the right. Next, go ahead and add a stationary weapon to each of those different sensors. Once you've done that, go ahead and match the weapon to its corresponding laser output. And by that, I mean the trigger for the left weapon should be Q, and the trigger for the right weapon should be E. If we add more turrets, you're going to want that logic disconnect, so then that way all of the sensors don't travel the same direction. So if we go ahead and test this out, you're going to see when we get close to the wall, the sensors on the right side are all going to flash green saying, hey, we see something, and it's going to turn in the direction of whatever it sees. And I'm not going to lie, it took me a couple of minutes to figure out what the heck did I do wrong to make it so in that way my drone will not fire. I thought it had something to do with that logic disconnect. I thought it had something to do with the way that I put stuff. I just completely forgot to add energy to this thing. Let's go ahead and add energy and I'll show you what that looks like. As you will see here, each individual turret on its motorized hinge will aim towards an enemy. It's kind of fun, just something different to mess around with. Is it super practical? I don't know. It's just more fun than it is anything else. If you enjoy watching videos about Nimbatus, go ahead and leave me a comment down in the description below and let me know, so in that way I will keep making more videos. I'm having a total blast playing this game. Go ahead and check them out on the Kickstarter again down in the description below. And if you like what I do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton and I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Aurelia and I hope to talk to you guys again soon.